The watch on your wrist? Yeah, it probably didn't take the scenic route through the Swiss Alps, more like a fast track through Shenzhen. Turns out, the secret sauce behind even the biggest names, Rolex, Omega, the whole luxury gang, is cooked up in China. We've been fed this whole crafted by candlelight in a snowy Swiss cottage fantasy for decades. But here's the plot twist. About 95% of the world's watches are made, or at least pieced together, right here in Shenzhen. Switzerland may write the love letters, but Shenzhen's doing the laundry. Welcome back to Opulent Oasis. Today, we're cracking open the Rolex glow-up and why Geneva might not want you reading the label too closely. The leak? Huge. Once people found out, Rolex didn't say a word, they just dropped prices, which for them is like admitting the sky isn't blue. Quiet panic, loud message. So what lit the fuse, and why now? That's what we're here for, because that Swiss-made charm might just be wearing a very convincing Chinese disguise. The myth of Swiss craftsmanship. Luxury watches have long coasted on a killer backstory. Swiss hills, master watchmakers, decades of tradition packed into a tiny case. Say Rolex, Omega, or Patek Philippe, and most people instantly picture some old guy in the Alps hand-polishing gears with a goat watching nearby. It's a vibe, and it sells. But here's where the dial starts to shift. A huge chunk of those Swiss-made masterpieces, built in Shenzhen, China. Not inspired by, not finished in, built. Basically, Switzerland handles the storytelling and Shenzhen handles the labor. Naturally, this little truth bomb has people spiraling. If luxury's built on image, what happens when that image starts peeling like a bad sticker? Does Swiss-made still mean anything if the watch took a detour through an assembly line in southern China? The industry's still playing it cool. No big statements, no apologies. But behind the velvet curtain, there's a quiet panic. The old formula of heritage plus mystery equal big money is starting to expire. And now, transparency is the new trend, which is ironic for a business that's been anything but clear. While you're here, go ahead and hit subscribe. Join the Opulent Oasis crew. We keep the good stuff coming. No fluff, no filters. All right, let's get back into it. Shenzhen, the silent giant of watchmaking. Let's be real. We all bought into the Swiss fantasy. Snowy villages, artisans hunched over tiny gears, cue the violins. But here's the plot twist. 95% of the world's watches now come out of Shenzhen, China. Yes, including the ones that cost as much as a used car. It's not just your fashion watches. Even luxury heavyweights quietly source parts, cases, dials, even movements from Shenzhen. Switzerland handles the finishing handshake, but Shenzhen's doing the push-ups. This isn't some recent revelation. Shenzhen's been grinding for decades. Smart tech, sharp labor, and factories that could run laps around old-school ateliers. So why are we just hearing about it now? Thank TikTok and YouTube and bored factory employees with phones. Turns out, heritage looks less romantic when it's filmed under fluorescent lights. Viral clips show factories cranking out thousands of watch cases that look oddly familiar. Then come the side-by-side teardowns. Same internals, different logos, vastly different price tags. Brands haven't said much, just a vague nod that some parts are made in China, but assembled with love in Switzerland. Technically legal. Emotionally, kinda awkward, because Swiss-made now means Swiss-assembled-ish. Throw in the US-China trade war, and suddenly Chinese influencers had receipts and plenty of motivation to share them. What started as political posturing became luxury watchmakers' worst PR nightmare. Now, buyers are skipping boutiques, buying direct, and realizing they can save thousands without sacrificing much more than the brochure. The Swiss brands are in a bind, cling to the fairy tale or face the music. And buyers, we're starting to ask, if almost everything's made in China, are we just paying extra for the font on the dial? In 2025, Shenzhen isn't just in the picture, it might be directing the whole film. The backlash and the price drop. Rolex prices don't usually flinch, but lately, the sub and Daytona took a quiet 8 to 12% dip, like a stock that sneezed in public. Even the crown can catch a cold when the internet starts sniffing around. And when Rolex stumbles, the rest of the luxury world straightens its tie. The trigger? A flood of exposés tying Rolex components to Chinese factories. No denial, just a sudden rollout of slow-mo videos showing Swiss hands delicately assembling parts. It wasn't damage control, it was distraction dressed up as craftsmanship. Instead of confronting the headlines, Rolex leaned harder into nostalgia. Swiss-made? Let's just say Swiss-finished. You can't slap Shenzhen on a myth and expect buyers not to squint. Meanwhile, Shenzhen's building watches that look, feel, and tick like the real thing for $500. Not cheap knockoffs, legit homage pieces. They don't fake the crown. They fake the experience. Same wrist presence, less wallet damage. TikToks full of side-by-sides. Submariner versus Submariner, but make it reasonable. And when even collectors pause before pointing to the real one, you know the flex economy's in trouble. And Rolex isn't the only one sweating. Omega, Tag, even Patek are caught in the fallout. The Watchbox index is quietly slipping. Turns out, limited supply loses its charm when the clone drops before the boutique version even hits the glass. The whole Swiss-made mystique, it's looking shaky. When your watch takes more flights than you do before final assembly, people start wondering what they're actually buying, engineering or mythology. Insiders say it's time to drop the pretense. Buyers want precision, design, durability, not a passport stamp. Nobody's asking for a hand-signed gear from Bern, just a reason to believe it's worth 5 figures. Rolex still has weight, but now they'll have to do more than recycle the legend. In a world full of lookalikes, originality's the new flex. And yet, the silence from the brands is deafening. Rolex, Patek and AP have all ghosted the conversation. It's less luxury and more strategic avoidance with a luxury finish. The math explains the mumbling. Admit you're outsourcing, and suddenly the $8 billion fairy tale feels a lot less magical. Because Swiss-made isn't about where, it's about why people pay. And they're not pivoting anytime soon. China's too good at this game. Efficient, scalable, fast. Switzerland adds the signature, but Shenzhen's been writing the draft. Influencers? Quiet too. When your wrist candy comes with perks and plane tickets, you don't exactly start asking hard questions on camera. Polished reviews, polished motives. Media, same script. Big brands bankroll their pages. Ruffle feathers, and you lose more than just a press pass. You lose the pipeline. Behind the velvet rope, the production math is rough. That $10,000 sub costs Rolex a few hundred to produce. The rest is storytelling and maybe a better clasp. Scarcity plays its role too. Carefully staggered releases, whispered waitlists. It's all theatre. But even good theatre loses the audience when they see the prop table. Profit margins, sky high. Rolex isn't just making watches, it's printing cultural currency. But that only works if the audience keeps believing. Now, buyers are waking up. They're skipping boutiques, skipping the fairy tale, and going straight to the factory. If the watch looks the same and ticks the same, maybe it is the same. Factory-made alternatives are booming. Same materials, solid movements, no ego tax. People are realizing it's not about the story, it's about the specs. Reddit, Discord, YouTube. Fans are sharing tear-down shots, macro photos and comparisons. And when the replica's built just as well, that applause for the original starts to feel a little forced. Still, Rolex isn't out of the game. Legacy is sticky, but the ones who survive this shift won't just be the loudest, they'll be the most transparent. In the new watch economy, proof beats prestige. So, is your watch still Swiss if it's been on a layover in Shenzhen? Would you pay Rolex money for a global group project, or are we all just cosplaying luxury at this point? Drop your hot takes in the comments. We're here for the drama and the details. And if you like your watch talk with a side of truth and sarcasm, hit like, smash subscribe, and dive into the rest of Opulent Oasis. We've got more myths to bust and crowns to question.